Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today is actually the fourth day of the WAPPP conference, and this is the first PPP unit presentation. Now, for those who have not met me yet, my name is Lieven, and I co-chair the Asia-Pacific chapter of WAPPP. I also am a certified PPP trainer and provide consulting services to authorities and private investors in PPPs in Asia as well as the Middle East. I'm honored to host the Indonesian Infrastructure Guarantee Fund. Actually, when I first moved to Asia 14 years ago, PPP in Indonesia was really in its infancy. But today, there are many success stories when it comes to procurement of infrastructure under the PPP model. This is thanks to having put in place the rules, regulations, also putting in place institutions like IIGF, SMI, BAPPANAS, who all form an ecosystem that is conducive for PPPs to thrive in Indonesia. In addition, in Indonesia, a lot of capacity building and training is being done. And so I'm really confident that we will see even a bigger pipeline of PPP projects coming to the market in the near future. So our speaker today is Pa Andre, who is appointed as director at IIGF since March 2020. And he earned a Bachelor of Engineering, majoring in Civil Engineering, and a Master in Engineering in Project Management from the University of Indonesia, before continuing his education at Nanyang Technology University in Singapore. Welcome, Pa Andre.
Thank you, Lieven.
Before I hand over, Pa Andre, I would like to mention a few housekeeping rules. Everyone is welcome to ask questions to find out more about Pa Andre's presentation. Please provide your questions or write them in the Q&A box, where we will keep them for the Q&A session at the end. Again, a very warm welcome to you, Pa Andre, and please educate us about PPPs in Indonesia. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lieven, my old friends. And ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good day, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So it's been an honor for me and our institution, also representing one of the key players in Indonesia, PPP environment or ecosystem. Let me introduce myself as Director of Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund, or we can say in bahasa SPT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia, or PTPII. What will be shared in this very distinguished forum is on how the overview for Indonesian PPP progress so far and its status and the role of the PPP guarantee related to the context of ESG, environmental, social, and governance principles implementation. And I'm honored to share this in the next probably 15 to 20 minutes of presentation. And let me start with my first slide. So there'll be three agendas. The first of all is more on how IIGF mandates to support the infrastructure development in Indonesia. So we'll see how the stakeholders, the ecosystem, and also the needs for infrastructure development will be addressed by having PPP. And somehow in the second section, I'll share with you about the government guarantee provision scheme related to the context of infrastructure, especially PPP. And the third section would be on how our commitment in the ESG implementation related to the WAPPP scheme and other infrastructure sustainability context or considerations. So next slide. On beginning the first section, let me share with you on the infrastructure needs of Indonesia. We can see in the left-hand side the size of the investment target, actually this is the number that has been calculated before the pandemic situation, and I think the number is still quite relevant for us to refer to. But what I'm trying to say here is that the capacity of our government budget is only around 37%, with uh, uh, another contribution will be expected from the SOE, around 21% in total for the needs of 437 billion US dollar in approximately. So that we expect the private sector, including the PPP, will support around 42% of our financing needs. And this has been written in our National Medium-Term Development Plan. And the government has also announced that the PPP is already a national program for alternative and creative financing scheme to attract more private capital on public infrastructure deliveries. And here we have an institution like IGF as part of the fiscal tool to provide the support and enhancing the policy to implement the PPP. In aside of the IGF for the guarantee fund, we have actually established the project development facility, the PDF, and also the government through the Minister of Finance can provide the viability gap fund, or VGF. And also the third is the available payment scheme for the projects related to the government pay kind of project structure. And for the guarantee itself, of course, number 4 and number 5 is the infrastructure financing. Levan just now have mentioned about the PTSMI. They are also our sister company, another special mission vehicle, SMV, of the Minister of Finance, providing infrastructure financing. And also somehow number 6, the government has also set up certain support related to the land acquisition, including the funding and also special regulatory framework. And here in this slide, we can also see the eligible sectors for PPP. I think almost all sectors related to infrastructure has been included. So we can, let's say, group into 3 different groups, like connectivity infrastructures, like transport, road, and other utility sectors, like electricity and social infrastructure. This is the recent group that has been included in our regulatory framework for PPP, and also for the public utility like water, housing, urban facility, solid waste management has been also included in the as an eligible sectors for PPP. Next slide. So we actually really acknowledge the situation and the condition of our country geographically as an archipelago country, which consists of thousands of islands, which need connectivities and good infrastructure, of course, so that we want to focus on how to develop sustainable infrastructure development. So with this, as I mentioned earlier, the government commitment has been established in providing the support initiatives, especially in the Minister of Finance. And we can see how IGF or PTPII has been assigned for the mandates of and the concern of bankability for our PPP project by providing sovereign guarantee. And on the left-hand side, we can also be assigned by the Minister of Finance to provide the project development facility to support the contracting agency for the project preparation and transaction advisory. So this is something that we can be mandated formally by the government. And as the guarantor also, we actually can be involved from the early stage of the project and until not only the signing of the agreement or commercial close and also achieving financial close, but also by our guarantee period. We can also assist the contracting agency throughout the construction and operating periods. So this is something that we are privileged to do it in a project life cycle end to end. Next slide. Speaking about the IGF or PTPII, as I mentioned to you earlier, we can be mandated by the government to provide the PPP guarantee and also the PDF, the project development facility. But in addition to that, we can also be mandated by the government to provide sovereign guarantee to other sectors or other type of instruments. For instance, we can also provide not only the project guarantee like the PP guarantee, but also we can provide the credit guarantee to this state-owned enterprise, to the SOE. And related to the national strategic project, we can also provide specific guarantee which only consists of the political risk for all the national strategic project, not only PPP scheme, but also for non-PPP scheme. And related to our national economic recovery program, as an impact of the pandemic, we can also provide the corporate credit guarantee by assignment from the Minister of Finance. So somehow we can see ourselves as we are actually owned 100% by the government of Indonesia, and how we can be involved in many different phases from the early stage and until the implementation stage. We can see ourselves is expected to have a role as a project enabler and also the financing enabler for our projects and our ecosystem. Next slide, I will tell you about the progress, and by Livan referred just now, I think the last probably 8 to 10 years, we have actually finalized some projects throughout Indonesia. In total, we have 42 projects, consists of the whole mandate, but for the PPP itself, we already conclude for the commercial close of 31 PPP projects, which has the investment value of around 23 billion US dollar. Sorry. So it consists of 6 different sectors, from the road sectors, including toll road or non-toll road, the electricity sector, telecommunications, drinking water, and some transportation projects, including the railway and the airport projects. So this pipelines, or that's already under our project implementation or monitoring stage, so that we are still expecting that another new projects are in our pipeline for us to support more in another new sectors, including, let's say, like hospitals, like waste management, and street lighting, and so on. The next slide. I will share to you about how's the guarantee itself. So first, I want to share you about the value proposition, including the benefits that expected from the government contracting agency, from the GCA and the investor itself. So from the right-hand side, we can see how our guarantee can improve the transparency of the process, which it can improve the project credibility from the investor's point of view. So this is something that's very important for those of you who are involving in this PPP implementation. Of course, you will be agree that somehow PPP principle or process itself is enhancing the transparency, and we as the guarantor is expected to enhancing this more with our process. And of course, the second value will be on the risk management, how to ensure the fair risk allocation between the government and the business entity. And the third one would be on the accountability, that will be ensuring the process is accountable. So with this first 3 process, we expect that also somehow in the eyes of the Minister of Finance, we can also function as the fiscal risk manager. And the fourth aspect is on the bankability, which reassuring the comfortability of investor in supporting in the project financing and funding. So this is something that, in short, we are expected on all projects that we are guaranteeing, it can reach the financial close, or in other words, it's bankable. So this is the value proposition that we are expected to do and to deliver. And for the next slide, we will see on how we actually, in doing the mandates and providing guarantee, we are inevitably have to be involved in different areas, including developing the ecosystem and network. And here we we will share with you how the IGF is also being proactive and being key players and members of the Indonesia PPP Joint Office with 8 different ministries facilitating PPP throughout Indonesia, so including the Bappenas or the planning agency, the Minister of Finance, of course, the Minister of Internal Affairs, the National Procurement Agency, and so on. So with all those ministries, we are forming a joint office, and we are glad to be part of those joint office in supporting the PPP of Indonesia. And we also have a very firm role in capacity building, as mentioned earlier, and also doing research and publication under our internal division, IGF Institute, which always been the center of excellence for the knowledge management for PPP, and this somehow has been providing values as well to our partners. And with IGF Institute, we also have been assigned as the accredited training organization, or ATO, from APMG. So similar to what Lieven has mentioned, for the certification of PB professional, it can be done through our IGF Institute as well for Indonesia region especially. And we have also collaboration with our academic partners like universities under the platform of University Network for Indonesian Infrastructure Development, or UNIID. So with this initiatives, I think we are very glad that we are actively participating in developing the ecosystem together with our partners. And on the right-hand side, we can see how the project development facility is delivered in supporting our role for project enabler and financing enabler. And here we see how the PDF function is supporting us in the provision of the guarantee as well. And we hope that the collaboration between the PDF and the guarantee will provide us the feasible and bankable projects. In terms of the guarantee itself, this is what we actually do. So we are ensuring the process of the project structuring and appraisal. So we do this the monitoring as well. This is something that in the contract implementation, this is the stage that where somehow we are neglected to really look at in more details in the dynamics of the project, especially on the risk allocation and contract implementation. So this is something that we are supporting the GCA in doing so we can become the enabler of the project throughout the process and the stages. And the next slide. This is the scheme as the generic scheme of our guarantee framework for PPP. So as we can see, the PPP agreement itself, the agreement number 1 in the center, it's between the GCA, the blue box, and the SPV, and the orange box. And if the project is guaranteed by us, so we will become the third party, the PTPII in the center, and we can provide related or referring to the PPP agreement, we are providing the guarantee agreement to the SPV or to the project company. And almost in the same time, we also have another agreement, recourse agreement with the government contracting agency in ensuring that there's no moral hazard or minimizing moral hazard from the GCA in their implementation or fulfillment of the financial obligation. So in the case that they have the financial obligation that's not fulfilled, or they don't pay in a sense, we will pay the claim, which is submitted by the SPV to us. And the next step, we will also get the reimbursement through the recourse agreement to the GCA. So this triangle of agreements has been proven in ensuring the structure that is working for our projects. In the case that our capacity is not sufficient in supporting the project, we can have the guarantee cooperation with relevant organization like multilaterals, and we can also have a co-guarantee scheme with the Minister of Finance. So this is something that we have been implemented in our projects. And as the possible guaranteed risk, as the coverage is mainly is the risk from the government action, so government action or inaction that have impacted negatively to the project. So including the change in law or government policy, which is probably discriminatory or specific, impacting negatively to the project, and breach of contract of the GCA. And for the GCA itself, it can be the line ministries and also the regional governments. In the next slide, this is how, if we try to map all those risks in the different stages, like pre-construction, construction, and operation. So we can see, for instance, the early termination by the GCA can be covered from pre-construction stage, so until the operation stage. And for instance, for payment risk, like the non-payment of availability payment, for instance, if it happens, you can cover for operation stage. So this is all actually based on the risk allocation principles that we have also upheld in as a principle of PPP. So this is something that I don't need to explain anymore, for of course. So the next slide. I'll be moving to the third section on how we do implement the ESG. So the commitment to sustainable infrastructure and development is actually has been part of our business process and framework. For instance, here we can see we have 8 environmental and social principles already included. I will explain you a bit more in the next slide. But here what I would say is that all of our projects should have the contribution to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG. And for doing so, we have implement the framework for project evaluation. So under our feasibility assessment, risk management, and governance, this has been embedded. And for instance, in the specific environmental and social risk assessment, we are actually are doing it from the screening process, appraisal, structuring, and monitoring process. So we do it continuously in our projects. For that, we have a dedicated division for the ENS risk assessment. So we have ENS division as part of our organization, and we are continuing to develop the capacity of them as part of our internal team. So here we can see that IGF is committed that the project can provide the balanced benefit in terms of the ESG towards the SDG contribution. The next slide. So these are the 8 principles that has been also included in our government guarantee evaluation process. So it includes the risk and impact assessment, labor and working condition, resource efficiency, pollution prevention, and so on, including the cultural heritage consideration and biodiversity. So this is something that, in short, I will say that these are the aspects that we are looking very carefully, especially for the land acquisition, for instance, in ensuring that all the environmental and social principles have been assessed and mitigated properly in terms of their risk. The next slide, I think this one is the last slide. We are also referring our 8 environmental and environment social principle from the ESMF framework. So this is something that already part of our process from the project screening, appraisal, and we also use for developing or providing inputs for the risk mitigation plan developed by the GCA. And as part of our project monitoring process is something that we also look at as our main reference. I think with this, I will say that on this third session that hopefully what we are doing is helping the projects towards achieving the sustainable PPP projects and also on overall development and having a good impact and benefits to the GCA, especially, and to the government and public in general. Thank you for the time. I will return this to Lieven. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Pa Andre. This is really an excellent presentation. It's clear that the IIGF is playing a a key role, a pioneering role in enabling PPP projects in Indonesia. And as you mentioned, Pa Andre, capacity building is indeed very important. IIGF as an ATO can play an important role in increasing that capacity, right? So yeah, hopefully that will result in a healthy pipeline, or even bigger pipeline than you already have right now.
Yeah, sure.
So I did see that there are already a few questions that are coming in. So if you don't mind, I will just put them on the screen, and then
Sure.
You can see which one you would like to answer. All right. So that's the first one of Ravi. What is the form of the guarantee?
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Levan. Thank you, Mr. Rafi Srihari from the UAE for the question. Actually, we have joined Dubai Expo early this year for informing our PPP showcase with the Minister of Finance. So this is something that we hope that we can explore further. So on the question, the guarantee that I'm referring in this presentation and for the one that is used in our project is actually the sovereign guarantee. So it's the guarantee from the Minister of Finance or from the government, which has been provided especially to the private investor, i.e. the project company, in the case that the government contracting agency did not fulfill their financial obligation under the PPP agreements. So if I can go furthermore on this, let's say, for instance, in the PPP agreements, you have the compensation for the change in law event, for instance. So this is something that if it's qualified under the PPP agreement and the private partner or the SPV has the right to be compensated by the government, but somehow the GCA or the government did not fulfill the compensation payment. So we will be the one who will pay for that compensation in the event that the GCA is not able to do the payment. So under the government, under the guarantee agreement, we can exercise the claim from the private partner to us. So with those reference, we will pay the claim, and after we finish paying the claim, we will get or we will claim back our guarantee payment to the GCA under the recourse agreement. So this is like a third-party guarantee, actually. So this is the government, the Minister of Finance guaranteeing the financial performance of the government contracting agency or other line ministry or regional government under the PP agreement. So this is what I explained earlier about the guarantee.
Great, thank you, Pa Andre.
Thank you. Hope it's clear.
Yes, I think it is. Let me show the next question. I think it is with regards to the integration during risk management between different stakeholders.
Okay, this is actually a great question. Yeah, how is the value integration to risk management between stakeholders and projects? So, if I may try to answer the question, Miss Aizan. So first of all, as our mandate for providing guarantee is not actually only being the financing enabler. For instance, mainly the lenders which has concern on bankability will need a guarantee before they are agreed to provide financing. So that's what we refer as a financing enabler. But the key thing is that first of all, on developing the bankable project structure and also risk structure, this is something that we hope that we can deliver together with the project owner or the GCA to attract the private partner to be cooperated under the PP agreement. So we can provide inputs in terms of, let's say, the proper risk allocation and also the risk assessment, what are the key risks of the project and so on, and what are the mitigations. This is something that we provide in substance towards the guarantee documentation. The next point that I will say it brings the value under the risk management between the different stakeholders is that it's actually the communication itself, the communication activity itself, how we coordinate different stakeholders in the government itself. Let's say, for instance, from one regional government being the government contracting agency, when they propose their program to be a PPP, how they can coordinate in different ministry as the license grantor or the facilitator for the investment and so on. So there are different ministries in the government itself that should be integrated somehow or should be coordinated. And somehow this has reduced certain risks itself in which can emerge from the government side. And this risk has also been regarded by the private partner as one of the key value for our involvement. Not to mention being provider of the capacity building. So this is something that, as Liven mentioned, if we can get our partners, especially the government partners, especially the GCA, which has probably limited familiarity with the PPP. So if we can provide them the, let's say, the good comprehension of the PPP concept, principles, and the process, including documentation and how they develop the project documentation, this has actually reduced certain risks in terms of the government itself. So I think, in short, the value of being so-called a facilitator of PPP by providing the guarantees actually has been somehow experienced by our partners, and it's something that hopefully can bring more value, including for the knowledge management to the academics and the internal agency that's involved in our projects, including the multilaterals when they provide technical assistance, and also even the government loan as part of the government support. Yeah, this is something that we as the guarantor can help in coordinating and integrating the different perspective and process. So hopefully will result in a lower or manageable risk profile to the project and brings the benefits as we expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa Andre. And if you don't mind, just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that question.
Sure.
In fact, if you mentioned, of course, you're providing the guarantees. On the other hand, you mentioned the coordination that is needed between the different stakeholders. You are mentioning the capacity building as well. So my question is, what would be the one thing? I mean, obviously, it's a complex thing to bring private capital to the projects. Both are many out there, but how to bring them together, right? So what would be the one thing from your perspective that is holding back these two to come together?
Okay. If I can comprehend the question correctly, I think the key thing that can bring the two parties, especially from the public and the private side, is towards having the right balance on having the good project structure. And this project structure, I think, can only be achieved by first good comprehension from our government contracting agency as our main partner, because they're the one that for us we are guaranteeing their performance right under the PPP contract. So we need to ensure that they have the right comprehension to the project and also to the clauses under the agreements, so that they will understand what will be their rights and obligation under the contract. So if it's been comprehended correctly through our, let's say, not only the assistance, the uh, the PDF assistance, for instance, but also for from the capacity building sessions that we have been. We actually has been obliging to all our partners to have this capacity building session, or in short, we cannot process our guarantee if they don't follow if they don't follow the capacity building session. This is something that
Right.
obligatory for us.
Okay.
And then for the interaction between them to the potential partners for the market, I think we are also facilitating them in having, let's say, the market sounding session, the market confirmation during
Right.
the development of the project documents, and also from the transaction stages when we have a deeper conversation or discussion on the project itself, and also for the for the risk structure itself. So hopefully, with this all interaction, it will bring all the parties' perspective in one point that we can agree on having the commercial close for the deal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think you're spot on in in saying that finding the right balance in allocating the risk is basically the
Yeah,
key, right?
yeah,
And we all need to bear in mind that that balance is not the same for every country.
yes,
It also evolves over time for a specific country. As I mentioned before, I was doing PPPs in the UK before.
yeah, yeah.
They had a certain balance. Indonesia has another type of balance, and even today, the UK is doing much less PPPs than they were doing in the
Mm,
past. So
mm,
in that sense, it's something that is a little bit of a moving target. But it all starts by making sure that both parties have a good understanding of
yeah,
what the project is about, what the risks are, and indeed then coming to an agreement
yeah,
to
yeah.
allocate it properly.
Can agree with you more, Devon.
Excellent, thank you. There's another question. Let me just put it on. Okay, about hydropower program.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you for the question, Miss Cheryl, I assume from Singapore. Uh, this hydropower program is actually we are supporting it as non-PPP guarantee. So we are doing the credit guarantee for the PLN financing for this program. So this consists of different hydropower plants in actually in the eastern part of Indonesia. We have several of them, and this has been financed by the PLN from the multilaterals, and this is something that we are supporting this project by providing credit guarantee together with the Minister of Finance.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We have another question related to guarantees, but more looking towards the future.
Yeah, okay. It's a good question as well from Mr. Aman from India. So, with regards to the contingent liability, this is very important consideration. Actually, not only for us, but actually for the government. So, if we refer back to the philosophy of why IGF is been established by the Indonesian government, is actually has been part of the contingent liability framework from the government. So we actually has been part of the instrument that or framework for the government to manage contingent liabilities from infrastructure project, especially from PPP. So so I think with regards to the number of portfolio or the size of our portfolio in a guarantee, uh, I think this is something that for the government, if it's been structured as PPP and being guaranteed by IGF, they can classify this as more manageable, or probably if we try to assess the risk, probably it's classified as a lower risk in terms of the contingent liability if we compared to other source of contingent liability. So this is something that has been ensured by our process as being guarantor, through the evaluation, to the screening, appraisal, and structuring, but also by having the effort on monitoring the implementation of the risk mitigation plan. So hopefully at the end, this contingent liability will never be realized, and hopefully by providing this guarantee, we already can have the infrastructure delivery supporting to our needs. So I think without having the government providing direct budget to develop the project, but only by providing the right or the good structure of the guarantee, it can resulting into more manageable fiscal risk profile for the government. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I think we have like 2 more minutes or so. So if there are any more questions, this, I believe, Mr. Ravi, this is not a question, but I think he's agreeing with what we discussed before.
Yeah.
Let me check if there's any other questions from anyone else.
If I may comment with this Rafi's statement, if I may.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
So just for your information, I think you spot on the right points, on having the definition of the risk allocation principle. And this has been something, as Leven has mentioned, we in Indonesia, actually IGF is the one who is mandated by the regulation to develop so-called risk management, risk allocation guidelines for PPP. So the national PPP risk allocation guideline is developed by IGF in collaboration with the inputs from different parties. So from our inception, so in 2010, we have issued our first version of the risk allocation guideline, and now we are constantly or periodically updating this guideline, and you can find it in our website. Actually, I will share for the address of our website, and as you can see there, it will be the main reference, although it is still generic because as Leven mentioned, it can be different in terms of different jurisdiction or probably different situation, especially in a different project structure. Yeah, and this is something that at least we have provided the generic guideline, which can be developed further, and somehow for all the GCAs proposing PPP, this guideline has been used as the main reference for them to develop their project feasibility, especially in the part or the section of the risk allocation. So this is something that we hope that furthermore it can be enhanced further and getting more inputs from all the parties involved, and hoping that it will result into for more portfolio of good structure or good projects in Indonesia. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pa Andre. I think we're at the top of the hour, so let's wrap it up, because presumably some people want to go to the next session as well. So I'd like to thank all the participants that have stayed with us throughout the presentation. And in case you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us through the WAPPP website or directly on the AirMeet messaging here as well. Maybe, Pa Andre, if you are still available for another while, you can also meet participants in the lobby, the AirMeet lobby. In case they message you directly, you can meet each other there.
Okay.
So I don't know, you have any final remarks, Pa Andre?
Probably I just want to say thank you very much for having this distinguished forum and being invited here from Indonesia, and to share with you on how is the update from us, and hopefully we can further collaborate in our projects. And there are many opportunities, and we hopefully can bring you some information and also opportunities for more project that you can participate further. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and hope to see everyone in the next session.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pa Andre.
Thank you, Leven. Nice
Bye-bye.
meeting you. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Thank you all.